Is Manny here? We do have Rania online with us, so he'll need to promote her so she can speak.
When's she gonna speak?
When we ask her to. I don't.
From the commission. I am serving as the secretary now, and as I'll mention later in the action item, I'd like to serve as your secretary, at least for the initial period of the launch of the commission's work. I don't have any other report this evening other than to say that I'm thrilled to be here and really happy that we're finally getting to work. So that's my report, which will bring us to the city attorney's report.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. The report that I have is we did send all of you the information on your affidavits for training and your confidentiality agreements. We did not get all of those back. We have brought them here with us tonight for you all to sign those. And so we'll be passing those out for you this evening. That's really the substance of my report till we get to item B.
Great. Any questions on that? All right, that'll bring us to our action calendar. Item 7A is the selection of the chair and vice chair, and we'll do that by accepting nominations and voting on those in turn. That will be before, but I don't see one for item 7A. I see one for 7B and 7C. Okay. Okay. Then why don't you Okay, please, public comment.
Please be sure to turn on the microphone at the podium, please.
Is it working now?
Yes.
And is there a clock somewhere I can look at? I'll try to keep it to 3 minutes, but
Yes.
okay. What I wanted to do is provide some suggestions to whoever's the chair and vice chair is going to be based on my experience with various city committees and the planning commission. Yeah, well, I'm talking about the things that the person needs to know about in their selection, if I can. Well, but I do, because I think and I wish you'd stop the clock because it's all right, because I feel that the way this is set up is the only way to talk about what duties when people vote that they should know about.
Okay.
But I'm making the point that I think it's not that when I'm trying to say these are the things that when you go to vote, you should ask yourself, can this person do these things?
Yep, please proceed.
All right, if you could restart the clock.
I'll start it when you begin speaking.
Is it me that you can't hear, or?
I'm definitely too quiet
I
because
think
it's not
all
even
of the
on.
people, am I correct that all the people, when they speak, have to turn on their mic? Is that the way it works here?
Yep.
All right, so I guess it's going to take a while to get used to that for everyone.
No, our mics don't have to be on when you speak, but
No,
Our
but I
mic-
mean, when you speak.
yes, when we're speaking, they have
All
to be
right.
on. So
All right,
my
we got it all
apologies.
straightened out now. All right. Yes, my name is Robert Schussel. I'm a citizen of Vallejo, a concerned citizen. Let me begin. It's critical that both the chair and vice chair be people who can go together to meetings and things. I think it is absolutely critical that every time the chair and vice chair are someone asked to speak to them, that they're a team. It stops all kinds of abuses. This grand jury does this, and you should do it here. And one of your first meetings, you should be willing to go to someone like Mike Nispero, who was instrumental in starting the Oakland Oversight Committee. I think his insights could really help you avoid a lot of mistakes. 3, the chair needs to review the training videos of the Brown Act, decorum, and Rosenberg's rules of orders so that you can properly run your meetings. The chair also needs to right away create a committee to provide suggested rules and procedures. The planning commission could be a good start. I think it's critical that staff not be allowed to cancel 2 consecutive meetings, and don't give staff the power to unilaterally cancel meetings or dictate the agendas. And you need a new business item at the end of the agenda to allow for potential topics. And there needs to be some kind of maintaining of the topics in the agenda so people know what suggestions were made. I realized the city may not like this suggestion, but you need to have an independent lawyer and an auditor investigator as one of your top priorities. And I think the chair should require monthly reports that provide steps being taken to hire an independent auditor and lawyer. And the city's attorney's office has an inherent conflict of interest and should not be involved because your client is the police officers. Monthly reports on how progress should be required. And the city needs to assign staff to support POAC and have written descriptions of what their roles and responsibilities. That's been a problem with a lot of commissions. You don't get that. You also need to establish and publish a budget. And something that was highly successful was we on the advisory committee 10 years ago for police oversight had speakers educate the public and the committee, and I gave you a long list of them. It really makes a difference because it generates a lot of interest. The public has waited a long time. Please do what you can to let the public know that you're finally addressing some of their concerns. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to provide public comment on action item 7A? Okay, and as a point of order, if I could, I'd like to recognize City Council Liaison to the POAC, Dr. Letajou, who's here. Welcome. All right, then for item 7A, selection of chair and vice chair, as I mentioned, the commission can make recommendations. We'll vote on each of those in turn until we've selected both a chair and vice chair. Are there any nominations for chair? Yep, you could nominate yourself. All right, we have one nomination for chair. That's John Lewis, and we'll vote on that. And I think we'll go in turn. So I'll record these votes. Sorry, I'm getting a little used to this microphone, which is not really that convenient, but all right, we'll go here in order. Mr. Lewis, for the nomination of Mr. Lewis as chair. Aye. I'll go, and if I just for my record keeping, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it as a roll call. Commissioner Qualls. Okay. Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Hybels. Commissioner Sykes. Commissioner Roy.
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis, you've already voted aye. Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
And okay, that's it. Great. Congratulations. We've got a new chair. And then do we have any nominations for the role of vice chair? Okay. Commissioner Qualls.
I would like to nominate Renee Sykes.
Okay. We have a nomination of Commissioner Sykes for the role of vice chair, and we'll do a roll call on that again. Commissioner Qualls.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Hybels. Commissioner Sykes. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis. Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
Great. All right. Excellent. We have a chair and a vice chair. Congratulations. If you would like, Chair Lewis, you can take over chair of the meeting.
So item 7B, introduction and input commission secretary and commission attorney. Is there any public comment on that?
I just want to briefly talk about two things. The commission secretary, I think you need to make sure that the role of the commission secretary is clear, that that person there is to serve the committee and not to tell the committee how to run the committee. And that's been a problem sometimes in the past. The other thing I'd like to talk about is the commission attorney. I don't know who the city wants to appoint, but my concern is that it should not be someone who works in the city's attorney's office. And I think an independent outside person is needed. And the reason I say that is one of the clients of the city attorney and the city attorneys is the police officers. And that puts them sometimes in direct conflict with what POAC is trying to do. And if the person is currently a city employee, they should not be seated tonight due to what I think is a potential conflict of interest. And currently, the city attorney's office is under investigation to determine if there's enough evidence to have a formal investigation, whether the office had an improper role in allowing some police records to be withheld. That's an allegation, but if you have that allegation, the public is going to question where's your loyalty to? Is it to the city or is it to this POAC? So if it's true, and it's also true that these issues might come to POAC, and that's the problem. Secondly, the city's attorney office can be involved in defending police officers because that's their client sometimes. And some of POAC's investigations could involve these employees' behavior. Thus, the potential for perceived or actual conflict of interest exists. Please do not allow attorney who is a city employee to be a commissioned attorney. I think you absolutely need an independent attorney. I know the city will fight that, but in my heart, I think what's important, public perceptions, people I think in Vallejo feel that they're not being listened to and that deals are being made and things, and you need people whose perception is that they're above everything. Thank you.
So regarding selection of the secretary,
I may. Want to point out to the commission what the ordinance has to say about these items. It's on. It's just,
okay.
I'm too short for it, so.
Okay.
The appointment of commission staff is the job and role of the city manager per the ordinance. The city manager makes an appointment after seeking advice and input from the commission at a notice, regular or special meeting. So that's what we're doing tonight, is seeking the advice and input from the commission. The commission secretary's roles, as was identified by the speaker, are specifically laid out by the ordinance. Those are the roles of the commission secretary. The same is true of the roles of the commission's attorney. The commission's attorney, and this is in the ordinance as well, is selected by me as we assign the attorney. Again, after seeking advice and input from the commission. The assigned attorney may be an employee of the city attorney's office or a contract attorney or both. And then it goes on to outline all of those duties. To the speaker's question about an attorney having a conflict of interest, the ordinance provides that the assigned attorney shall not be an attorney directly involved in litigation matters involving the police department. So that leaves out our litigation attorneys from being the party who participates. And then it lays out the qualifications of that individual. So with that, Andrew, did you want to speak more to the appointment of yourself for temporarily at least?
Well, so I make the appointment following the advice and input of the commission. So happy to hear whatever thoughts you all have on who might appropriately serve, as was mentioned by the speaker and city attorney. The secretarial role is primarily an administrative role. I keep the minutes, publish the agenda. The chair and vice chair set the agenda. I'm the custodian of records as well, and so I'll be or whoever is appointed secretary will be a key person in transmitting records and communications. But that's really the extent of the role. It's not to direct or frankly not really even to advise as the secretary of the board, the commission. So happy to hear any input you receive that I will factor into my decision of who to appoint.
The one other thing I did want to speak to a little bit with regard to that item is it's almost impossible for me because it doesn't bend. I'll hold it. It's okay. So the commission secretary, to the extent that the commission wants items on the agenda, Andrew's statement is absolutely true. However, the ordinance binds some things that get put on the agenda on a very specific timeline, which staff will automatically do. Otherwise, we can blow and miss those timelines, thereby taking power away from the commission because you are bound by certain response times. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the agenda with some specificity about communications and receipt of complaints so that the commission can understand both those timelines and how they impact the commission's work and how those complaints and communications are received from the public. So wanted to be sure that you kind of understood that while the commission can say, please add X, Y, or Z to the agenda, you wouldn't be able to control things that are time bound by the ordinance. Those would have to come before you.
So
Well, I'm not hearing anything. Microphones, please.
So Commissioner Lewis, I do have a question about the secretary's position. Mr. Murray, is just based on something Dr. Schussel said, and excuse me if I mispronounce your name. Is there a timeline that we're looking at in terms of appointing a secretary, or do you have someone in mind, or you're just waiting to get full feedback from the commissioners?
I'm happy to appoint one this evening based on whatever input you provide. And as I mentioned previously, I'd love to be able to serve as the secretary, at least in the beginning phases of the work of the commission, because I'd like to be involved and help work through any kinks in the system. So that would be my proposal. Right, just messy. That's
hello. Okay. So we're looking to see if anybody else has any comments about the appointment of Murray for the secretary position, at least temporarily.
right, great. Well, seeing no objections, then I will, as the city manager, appoint the secretary and appoint it myself. I'm looking forward to working with you in this capacity. And then on to the matter of the city attorney.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. So with regard to that item, similarly, it's my intent to appoint myself and Randy as the attorneys to the commission, at least for seeking advice and input on routine matters. The Brown Act, a semblance of the agenda if that is necessary, some of the training items that we have already done, and updating those, etc. However, because we can appoint both an inside in our office and an outside counsel, it would ultimately be our intent or my intent to look for an outside attorney subject to whatever budgetary constraints we have from the council. Right now, this commission does not have a budget. Going forward, we have looked at some things that we can cover and some things that we can't cover within the confines of current budgetary constraints. So with that, and the input from the commission, I would have an intent to go out looking for someone when you're looking at complaints and investigations. Those are the things that really have the potential, if you will, to trip over things where people might have a feeling about our office's representation. And again, not me, but litigators in our office representation of the department. But we also do provide labor and employment advice. So there are some other things within the department that could be a tripping point when we're looking at, for instance, discipline, et cetera. So I do think that that probably is the best course of action. But without looking at the budget and putting that out there for a request and looking at who is available and proposals at this point on a temporary basis and hoping we don't have a immediate item other than your next agenda, again, which is a policy, and I'll explain that when we get there. That advice on policy, the are involved in anyway with the California Department of Justice. That's part of our role in the reform efforts. So we are very well informed on those policies as we move forward. So with that, happy to address any questions.
Yes, I have a question. I know that. Yes, I know that when we first assembled as a commission, we were informed that we were not going to have a budget. And the speaker just said that we currently don't have one at this time. So is there going to be one established for us?
So I'll let Andrew speak to that a little bit and expand on it. But yes, ultimately, we will need to look at several budgetary items. Some of these are on the agenda tonight that we're going to speak to you about. We are, and I don't want to get ahead of myself on the agenda here, but we are making certain suggestions about training. We're making certain suggestions about membership in organizations that both provide training and allow you to meet with your peers on other commissions. So we'll be talking about that. Those all have a budgetary cost to them. So yes, we will be looking at making a suggestion to the council about what the POAC budget would be. That will likely be a suggestion that will come forward to them next month, and probably result in a budget amendment of funds going forward. But that's the city manager's purview, not mine. So I'll let him speak to the details of that.
Yeah, not much more to add. So as was mentioned, there are some as staff items that we know that are going to result in expenditures of the commission that we would recommend you undertake. In addition, if the commission would like, there will be there's a section of the agenda, an item 9 this evening, future agenda items. The city council could request, or excuse me, the commission could request a future agenda item to discuss the budget that would provide us with a space to talk about both what staff envision as the budgetary needs, but also have the commission provide its own thoughts on whether it envisions additional budgetary needs that then we could take to the city council for consideration.
And then just to point out one more item, tonight we do have with us, I believe, I can't see all the people who are on Zoom, but someone you have met before with deep police oversight commission experience for more than one city's oversight commission. You've met her, you've been involved with her, and that is Rania, who was here before you doing some of your training. After some discussion at the executive staff level, we are planning to continue Rania's services to help make this a smooth transition for the commission, have someone that is not a city employee at all that can help with those transitions, including explanations about how other commissions have in fact handled certain matters. We think she's a great resource for this commission, and though that is not a defined role in the ordinance, we think that it can really help and gives you another, I'll call it sounding board, and someone else to talk to that isn't otherwise a city employee. So that's how we were planning to bridge some of these gaps, and we hope that the commission is amenable to that. But we're prepared to take your input.
Or is there any more discussion on, it sounds like at this point we have no budget. We're going to go with whatever at this point, and once we have a budget, we'll discuss that further.
On this item, absolutely we can. Yeah.
Good evening, Dr. Tanya Lettershew, and I am City Council member and the liaison to this committee. So one of the things that I'd like to say, just listening to the beginning conversation, is that I definitely, as the agenda is being built going on in the future, I'd like to be advised, and I am available to you, to the chair, the vice chair, to this whole entire commission. In addition to that, I think there's been some great points, and I know this is a jump off, it's a starting point, and you're all trying to get your feet on the ground. But I really encourage you to actively engage. There have been some really important things that have been stated, and I have heard, we've all heard desires for independence and different things. And I think it's really important to have the conversation and not just agree. I'm going to just be really frank and honest about it. You need to speak up to get what you need, what you believe as this body. And I'm here as that liaison to help you do that. And so I want to back up for a moment and I appreciate our city manager stepping in and being willing to serve in the capacity of secretary. I think it's very helpful, and I think it's very important for a commission that is so critical. So I do want to say thank you, as well as to the city attorney's office, the things that you're doing. But I also want to daylight that I do believe it is important when we're talking about having an independent attorney, which you have discussed. It is in the ordinance, and you need to discuss that. You are responsible for a very important role, and why you are here, why this commission exists, is to create an independent body. And so there needs to be the consideration of having an independent attorney. While yes, we have our city attorney, and she's here to advise on the various things that she has spoken. But the reality is we are here building community trust. And I'm going to be very frank about that. We're here to build community trust. And as someone who has held a very independent role for the better part of my career, I understand the importance of independence. I understand the appearance of independence. And it is not, I am not asserting that our CAO cannot hold that independence, but we are talking about the inherent role that this body holds to create the appearance of as well. And it makes a difference for community and how you hold your seat and how you hold your role. And as your liaison, I want to stress that you need to have that dialogue. And we need to talk about, how does that happen? That's very important. What is the process? How do we go about bringing forth every level of independence that this body needs to do their work, to appear to be independent before our community? Because we need to make sure that we are starting out on the right foot. And again, I am not asserting that our CAO is not independent. I am speaking about the appearance of. It is very important. And so, again, I'm here to support you, and I am committed to being here, and you will see me step in where I don't think there's enough dialogue happening on this commission in certain areas where it really lays the groundwork for you to do your work. Because I will be depending on you, the city will be depending on you to do this work in a very discreet format and way that creates independence. And so think about that as you continue to go forward. And this is a dialogue. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just, what is it that you believe that you need? I don't want you to leave tonight and you're having conversation. I want you to have the conversation here about getting what you need. So this is why I'm standing here today, because I know there's been a lot that has occurred. And again, you're getting grounded, and we're trying to fill this out. And I will say our speaker has said much, and the things that he has brought forward, they're not incorrect.
Right.
But how do you see them? And I'm not hearing that. And I'm concerned that I'm not hearing that tonight. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree. I mean, once we hit the ground and are actually doing oversight work, which we're not doing yet, when that happens, we're going to need an independent, somebody that is independent to advise us, and that's really important. And I think you and I and Commissioner Sykes, we need to talk about the budget for this committee and establish a budget, and then the other things that we need there besides the attorney.
So what I do want to say, because Dr. Letters, you took out of my head what I was about to say. So the concern I have, and it kind of, again, it talks to something that Dr. Shessel mentioned, is this has been a commission long time being established. And it's important that we do as soon as possible. And if it requires us getting a deadline, then we do a deadline to get an independent attorney in here as soon as possible. Because in my belief, the longer you delay this, you're not building trust in the community. They are going to see something like, now what's going on. I personally want the budget established next month, as it was stated, and I would like the independent counsel in place by the end of February. That's my wish, because I have no desire to delay this commission, not one more minute. They're not going to, the community's patience is very, very thin. We have people that are very concerned about the lack of movement. As I've mentioned before, and I said this to Dr. Letters and Councilman Mateus, I'm waiting, I'm patient, I'm not going anywhere. And that is very truthful. So when I appreciate what Ms. Nebb said, but I want to hear drop dead dates, a budget we can have so we can move, so the community can come and express their concerns about what they are experiencing and what they are feeling.
So I think in response to that, certainly, City Manager, do you think we can take that budget in February?
Yeah, so there's a council action that is relevant that's already scheduled for the first council meeting of February. That's February 10th, which is asking the city council to make what we call mid-year adjustments. This is the middle of our fiscal year, and we can include the POAC budget as part of that requested mid-year adjustment. I don't know if we've yet set a date for the second meeting of the POAC, and if that's the timing's going to allow for conversation regarding the budget at the second POAC meeting. If not, we'll at least include funding for what we consider to be the basics. And City Attorney Nebb already mentioned that she intends to ask for a budget for an independent attorney. So that will be part of that budget request.
Yes, it will. And so that was what I was going to add to that. We will be, looking at some alternatives for an independent attorney, someone or what do we call a contract attorney or an outside attorney to come. What we will be looking at with regard to that will be also getting some input from the commission once we have some, I'll call it proposals. So we will bring that back as an agenda item as well. So you will have a second bite at this particular apple. We'll be discussing kind of the budget things and some of the more ordinary things that really don't require paying me hundreds of dollars an hour to get an independent attorney, because they don't have anything to do with your work. So we may have a discussion about that. And when I say don't have anything to do with your work, some routine things. But yes, for the work that you will be doing on reviewing investigations and making your recommendations on that and disciplinary matters, I agree that that is an important aspect, and we were always planning to do that. So just wanted to make that clear to the commission.
So are we on to the next item, which is the selection of the meeting date?
Yes, we are. So our city clerk's office looked at the existing schedule of meetings that take place in the council chambers and the Vallejo room, and identified 4 days each month that would work as a regular meeting date. As City Attorney Nebb referenced earlier, there are some timelines that are embedded within the ordinance that require that the POAC take action with a certain timeliness. And so we will, of course, I think, pretty routinely be having special meetings that are called to respond to those timelines. But in addition, as a standing committee, we need to have a regular meeting date as well. And so I will let you know what the 4 available meeting dates are. Those are all for this room, the Vallejo room. They're the first Monday of the month, the fourth Monday of the month, the second Thursday of the month, and the fourth Thursday. So first and fourth Monday and second and fourth Thursday. I don't think there's any particularly efficient way to go about identifying that. We could perhaps do it by a show of hands. Oh, yes.
So I want to make this point. This is really important again. And it may not matter to the commission, but it matters to me. And because of the importance that I see this commission, what are alternatives where, I know today, as an example, we have the economic development meeting that's in the chambers. And I want to know how we can have some of our meetings actually in the chamber as well, not just here in this Vallejo room. So I would like that consideration for this commission. This is a very important commission, and I would like for this commission to be in the chambers at some of the times.
Okay, I don't think.
With all due respect.
Yeah, of course. The city clerk's office didn't identify any regular meeting dates that would work in the council chambers. So I could, yeah, I mean, we could go back and ask for some additional visibility into the chamber's availability. We might also be able to alternate with
Yes.
another group.
Yes, and I mean, it could also be we can do alternate. If Mondays are the best for the commission, we can always do an alternate. It doesn't, we can do some switching around.
So I would assume that that would work for any of these dates that the Vallejo room,
Okay.
I mean, any of the dates that the Vallejo room is available, I'm assume that we'd be able to alternate with the other body that.
Thank you.
And I love the suggestion. I think that I completely agree that this body has the standing that is appropriate for that use of both venues.
And besides, it's cold in here and I need my heater.
Another good reason. Okay, so Chair, if it's okay with you, I'll ask for a show of hands for those 4 different meeting dates and
So basically, 2 of them are Thursday and 2 of them are Mondays, right? Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah.
Did anybody have want to voice an opinion on Mondays or Thursdays?
My personal preference would be the Mondays, and I also agree that we should be in the council chambers as well as much as possible.
So if I may, can I have a show of hands for those for whom the first Monday of each month would work?
It's just would work or prefer.
Would work. Okay, first, I'd be surprised if they all work. So let's start with will work, and then we'll go down to preferred, I would say. So first Monday appears to work for all. Fourth Monday. No, that doesn't work for all but Qualls, I think. The second Thursday works for not Qualls and not Clark. Not Qualls, not Clark. And fourth Thursday. Same. That also does not work for Commissioners Qualls and Clark. The only day that worked for everybody is the first Monday. I would think the chair would accept a motion.
I make a motion that we have our standard meeting be on the first Monday.
I second that motion.
Um, Need to catch up with you by taking my notes here. Second was seconded by Sykes. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So the regular meeting date will be the first Monday of each month, and we will look to alternate with the other group that meets in the council chambers that time. Thank you.
And I think it is important that we meet in the council chambers. I've actually heard comment from citizens that this room, the acoustics suck, and they'd prefer the council chambers. So I guess it's on to discussion of special meetings and closed sessions.
Is it going to be the first Monday at 6?
Oh,
The
at 6.
time was not discussed. That's a good
Sorry,
point.
We didn't discuss that. Yes. So I'm happy to take a motion regarding the start time.
I'm good with 6.
Okay. Show of
Anybody object to starting the meeting at 6 o'clock?
Do you need a motion for that or no?
I don't think that motion's necessary, but it did occur to me that we didn't ask for public comment, and I don't know if anybody has public comment on that item. 7C. All right. Thank you.
Miss, oh,
I'm Stanley Hutter. I want to know if the meetings are going to be on Zoom.
Meeting be on Zoom.
yes, the meeting right now is on Zoom too. Yes. I'm sorry.
Someone is here filming this?
Yeah.
There's cameras around.
Yeah, there's cameras.
Little white things up there are all cameras, and if you can see the.
You can see
there
the
you
screen
see
right
all
here.
this.
That's what's
Yeah.
being.
Yeah, that's, you can wave it yourself. Before we leave the regular meeting item, having now taken public comment, our office has just advised us, and I don't know that there's a choice here, but the first Monday of the month is Planning Commission. So we would be, hard for the same reason we're talking about here. It's difficult for the Planning Commission because they have a lot of people who are there. There may not be a choice. So I just wanted to point out that the only meeting date that everybody could make was the first Monday. So I'm not arguing with that. I just wanted everyone to be aware that that is Planning Commission. It's a regular meeting date. Not that that can't be changed. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so, sorry, did you call the next item? I think you did before we went.
Could I clarify? So I know we just established the first Monday now. Let me just clarify. Will that be the first one in February then? Before the mid-year, before council? Potentially or no?
So yeah, for my calendar, that would be February 2nd.
Would that actually work? Because it would be nice to have a conversation before the mid-year budget in front of council,
Yeah,
or at least an update of what staff or the city is proposing for that budget.
certainly. And we can discuss that further under the future agenda items item.
Okay.
So I'd like to ask is there any public comment on the next item, which is discussion about special meetings and closed sessions?
So we may have more public comment after I speak to this item. I don't know. With regard to special meetings and closed sessions, I wanted to point out, and we talked a little bit about this at the first part of this meeting where I said I didn't really want to jump ahead, but I kind of did. because of the time binds for some of your action having to deal with how many days you have to react to X, Y, or Z with your recommendations, etc. And those are all in the ordinance. We will likely be calling a fair number, potentially, of special meetings. And many of those will include closed sessions because anything dealing with peace officer personnel and or investigatory reports would be in closed session. So just wanted to, make everybody aware that while you have just established a regular meeting date, there will likely be a series of closed sessions and special meetings. The city clerk will typically, how that generally works is she will poll you as she did for this meeting date. And she will be polling you for the next meeting date possibly, which will also potentially be a special. If we can't get the items for that meeting date available by your February 2nd meeting, which is a little bit tight. So if we can't, then there would be a special in February. And we can talk about that on the future agenda items topic on the agenda. But she will generally pull you. There may be some times when the full commission can't be in attendance. She definitely tries to make sure that the full commission is here. And certainly for this meeting, that was a high point, given it's your first meeting. But just be aware that at some point the commissioner or the city clerk kind of has to make a decision so that we can have a meeting within the time-bound timelines. So just wanted to point that out to you and so that you are aware and expecting those emails and contacts from the city clerk's office about those special meetings. That was all I really had for that item.
So is there any other discussion about special meetings? They're going to be inevitable.
So are you willing to give a hint as to how soon the special meeting will occur and how soon will that email go out?
That's a good question. I would have to speak to and circle back to HR. There's some items that we are waiting on for the policy that will be coming forward to you that we discussed at our last meeting, and let you know that we were going to have what is the complaints policy come before the commission for your input and for you to take public input. I was going to bring this up during the future agenda items, but we can talk about it now. That complaints policy is a policy that is being worked on between the department and the California Department of Justice. So we have a timeline applicable to that, but it is also dependent on its, I would call it, complete language being approved by the California Department of Justice before it comes before this body. And we take that input from this meeting, as well as there will be a town hall meeting that the police department will conduct. The input from the public at each of those meetings, as well as from the POAC, will then be carried forward looking to any amendments to that complaints policy that might be suggested. Those will then go back through the California Department of Justice process for vetting any changes that appear to be good suggestions, I guess I'll put it that way. And at that point, then the final policy will come back to the department for adoption once we have that approved. So I have some doubt that that could happen by February 2nd, given, and all looking at the deputy chief at the moment, seems tight. Okay. So certainly we can shoot for your regular meeting and hope that we could achieve that. But I did learn today that the people at Cal DOJ who will be working on this do have an upcoming vacation, and that may impact that. So with that, I would say that probably a week or so after that. So by the second or, I'll call it the second or third week in February, we would be calling a special meeting to answer the direct question that was asked as to when we would think a first special meeting would happen. If we cannot make the 5th or the 2nd, I would expect that within a week or at most 2 after that, you would be called for a special meeting.
So the one other final question I have has to do, and this has to do with the complaint policy, is has there been a template created or developed for the public to use for complaint policy? I know that was part of the training from December 2024, but that was one of the questions that was hovering in my mind when I was reviewing
Sure.
that.
That's not technically on the agenda tonight, but what I will say is the complaints policy it is subject to a revision and some process revision as well that the department will be presenting to you at that meeting so that you can hear all about it. I don't want to jump either the agenda on a special meeting that it's not on or the gun with regard to that, but that's the intent now. So yes, you will get all that information at that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
And regarding special meetings and the activation of this committee, are we to, just sort of a point of clarification because of the sort of start and stop nature of this committee, are we to understand that if there were to be, an incident or something that required our attention immediately, that could happen as soon as we walk out of this room tonight, that a special meeting could be called?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
We can pretty much only tell you about the ones that we're actually planning for, I guess, in advance. Yeah. Andrew, it appears that a member of the public would like to speak further to this item now.
I'm Stanley Hutter. I would like to I recommend to this commission that you establish and put in writing a policy regarding closed sessions. And I realize that on the one hand, there are the privacy rights of police officers and wish to avoid implicating or blaming anyone who shouldn't be implicated or blamed. And on the other hand, the investigation, the question of accountability and oversight requires investigation. And I don't think all of that should be done in closed session. So I would like to see the commission come up with a policy, how they want to proceed with this question of closed sessions.
Is there any other discussion on special meetings or closed sessions?
No, I mean, the only thing I would add in response to the speaker would be that closed sessions and what is statutorily confidential based on California law are really based in the law. There's not really a lot of wiggle room with regard to that. The department puts out some statistical information that is anonymized, if you will, that kind of lets people know where we are with some of those things. But the purpose of this commission, as it was originally identified, is to be the trusted eyes and ears of the public. And you all are subject to some very strict confidentiality regulations, both in the ordinance and in state law. I don't think we're looking to, or I don't think this commission is looking to expand on those or make something that is, not confidential. But absent some changes in the law that change those items, they remain confidential under state law in California. So I think, you know, we can have some conversations as we go along about what those are, and some conversations as to, you know, where those aren't. Your next meeting, unless something were to happen, that you will be addressing something is about policy that's totally public. So that's really all I can say at this point, where those points lie. And just for the edification of the public, there are outcomes from investigations and the investigations themselves that do become public. But those are dictated by exceptions in the state law that dictate that they be public. And so those ultimately do get released as public. But we have to follow that state law. Not following that state law actually is a crime in California. So with that, I don't really have anything else to add.
I agree. I mean, we're gonna, whatever is required to be confidential is, we're going to keep it confidential. That's, we really don't have much of a vote on that. Is there any other discussions about closed sessions or special meetings?
Speaking to the microphone, please.
I think that the public in general does not know what the state law is, what the applicable state laws are about confidentiality. That's why I'm asking for clarification, and that this commission establish a written policy so that we will understand what is confidential, what is not confidential. What Ms. Neves just said, it suggests that there are things that the commission may investigate in closed sessions. Once the investigations are completed, then they may be published. The results can be published.
It depends on what the results are, but yes. And it depends on what they're about.
Of course,
I know.
that needs
So-
clarification.
Understood. My suggestion with regard to this topic would be that we give a report to the commission that outlines all of that information and have that available to the public, both on the website for the commission as well as available for the commission, so that everybody can understand that.
Okay.
Because I don't disagree with what you just said at all.
All right. Thank you, Ken.
Absolutely.
Okay, I guess, is there any, move on to the next topic, topic E, additional training and National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement membership. I attended the Nicole meeting. It was a 2-day meeting in San Francisco a few months ago, and I learned a lot. And I wish the rest of us could have been there, but I didn't have any way to contact anybody. But I mean, it was really informative. So that's just such an excellent resource for us.
It really is. And so what staff is suggesting with regard to this item is that the city, as part of the budget, would pay for membership for all of the commissioners. And again, subject to the budget for the council. I don't see them saying no, but yeah, exactly. Because that it's not insignificant. Their national conference on an annual basis is, I think, in November. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's still
November 8th through 12th in Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, there you go. Thank you so much. So what we are also going to be suggesting as part of that budgetary item is that the full commission have the opportunity to attend that conference, make all of those connections, hear from a variety of experts in this field. I think that is, there can be differences of opinion, and it's really wise for you to all be able to hear all of that information, what's working for other commissions, what isn't working for other commissions, where are some of those trip points. All of that information can be available to you at that conference. So we are making that suggestion. The other piece of your additional trainings are the Chiefs piece. And I do believe that they are here tonight to talk a little bit about that. The pieces that the department now knows that they would like the commission to do, and then what further items they may be considering on a go-forward basis.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. Jason Taw, Vallejo Chief of Police. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the internal training that we recommend, but I want to just also kind of just touch up on Nicole, which is the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. I think it's a very good starting point. So they have a lot of pillars. So as I formulated our recommendations, that's where I really started with. There's another organization that we use quite frequently called POST. So it's Police Officer Standardized Training. Primarily, this training is used to train sworn officers, but it also extends to civilian staff, and it also, I believe, is very relevant for you all as well on the commission. So a lot of the recommendations that I had set forth to the city attorney really kind of aligns with the pillars of Nicole and how we can receive that training for you all through POST. So it's either through POST, or we could try to find independent trainers to really expose you to those pillars, and then to kind of just finish it off internally. I think that a good starting point for all of us is really just 3 basic internal trainings. So the first one being, and most of you I think have already completed the ride along. So a ride along is where you would spend time with a patrol officer in the field, and you'll see real life events unfold. You can see the decision making. You can experience some of the pressures that are involved with these type of events, interact with the community, interact with the officers, and also be exposed to tactical considerations. So I think the ride-alongs are very eye-opening if you haven't done one. I think it gives you a good insight. Secondly, the dispatch sit-alongs. So this is where you do the same. You're in an environment with one of our dispatchers, and you're watching our dispatcher go through a call. Somebody's calling in, asking for help, the type of questions that the dispatcher is trying to get from the caller immediately to better inform and dispatch officers to the scene. So they basically triage the call, they get information, they manage that information, and then they dispatch. And then lastly, we have a training device. It's called Virtra. So what it is it's a simulated training environment that puts the student or the person going through the training in a high stress, kind of a split second decision making scenario. So it's pretty realistic, and you'll be kind of amazed how just instinctively some people will react a certain way. This really teaches our staff how to anticipate, what is not sometimes anticipatable, and really kind of develop their thought process and really think in the moment. And then we critique it, of course, just to make it a learning experience. So those are the 3 main areas that I believe would be highly beneficial for you all internally. So with that, I can answer any clarifying questions.
Chief, I have a question. Do you have a set number of times that you recommend doing the ride-alongs dispatch? Because I think that was one of the things that we did while we were waiting for the commission to officially sit. So I don't know if is there a set number that you're looking at? Or should we do it every 3 months, every 6 months?
I think my opinion is for dispatch, you may not need it as frequent, but I think patrol changes quite frequently. So we have new law updates that really dictate what officers must do and new laws in terms of tactics on what we learn officers probably shouldn't do. So it's ever evolving. I think that probably 2 a year would be beneficial, but you could take more.
Okay.
You know, some people, they may like to ride with different officers. So not only do you get to see what the officer is experiencing, but you also get to make that connection with the employee as a person, as an officer. I think those are all valuable experiences. So I would recommend about 2 a year, and then maybe 1 for the dispatch.
Okay. And then the other thing I saw when we were doing the training, it mentioned crisis intervention training. And that's where sometimes the tactics used to diffuse a volatile situation. So I don't know if that's on your list of recommendations.
That's part of some of the Nicole pillars. So that is kind of covered in that aspect of some of the recommendations. And those are also taught by Post. So some of the information that I had provided just internally really talked about crisis intervention, mental health encounters, and high-risk calls as it relates to that. So that's part of Nicole's police operations, tactics, and field realities pillar.
Okay, thank you.
There's something in the ordinance called trauma-informed care. No idea what that is. Is that something we need?
Also, Commissioner, that's part of some of the recommendations within Nicole. So I think that's valuable. My opinion is all of the recommendations within Nicole, I believe you guys would highly benefit from taking all of them or as many of them as you can. So it does cover that as well. So
What you spoke of a little earlier was what generally called a simulator.
yeah, Virtra, V like Victor, IRTRA. Virtra. So it's a simulator. It's kind of a scenario simulator.
Yeah.
Some of the scenarios do encounter folks with, you know, different types of issues, mental illness, drug addiction, all of the above. So some of those scenarios do really encompass some of the pillars within Nicole.
Is that the one where you see somebody pop out with a gun from the doorway and all that kind of stuff?
That can be a part of it. Yes.
So I did want to point out as we discuss the additional training, and as the chief has mentioned, Nicole has and Post both have a lot of detailed training on some of these topics, which is why we're making that recommendation. Some of these items we gave you your initial training on when we went through all of the trainings over the, whatever it was, 9 that we did do. And you know, you can always go back and rewatch those trainings as well. As a precursor to attending a Nicole or a Post class on that topic, just to sort of, you know, remind yourselves of sort of the ground level of training that we did do on those topics. But I do want to encourage you to attend some of that more detailed training that the chief is suggesting. The opportunity to have that reinforcement, have multiple trainers who give you information is invaluable. So I do want to encourage that for you.
Is there a easy way to schedule ride-alongs? Who do we call? How do we set that up?
Yeah, my executive secretary could set that up for you. So I'll provide my email. If you don't already have it, just send me an email. I'll have her reach out to any one of the commissioners that would like a ride along. Actually, she actually might have already reached out to you all for the Virtra simulator, but we'll do the Virtra. And then if you want to take another ride along, if you haven't done one, then we can schedule you for the ride along and we could schedule you for the dispatch sit along.
Great. Okay.
Just very quickly, I had an opportunity to do the ride along and it was very eye-opening. And I'm actually interested in doing a couple more at different times of the week to understand the flow. So I will be reaching out, but I would also encourage fellow members to do a couple more because depending on the time, what I've learned, it's a very different environment and climate between dispatch and for ride along. I had a great officer at the time, and so it was a great opportunity. And I think average 2 a year would be good, but as right now to really understand the dynamics of what the officers are seeing and how they're interacting with the community was really helpful. So
Yeah, I went on one ride along and it really was eye-opening. I mean, I knew they would be busy, but what those guys are dealing with, it was amazing. It really was eye-opening. So, and I do want to do some more.
Through the chair. Before we sit down, I just wanted to take a moment since I'm up here to introduce myself. Deputy Chief Bob Knight. I will be your police liaison to the commission, so we'll be spending a lot of time together. So I look forward to the opportunity to work with you all. And again, thank you.
I'll be very brief. While you maybe had some of the training, I think it's been so sporadic and so long ago. I just urge you, there's 3 things that I think each commissioner needs to do in the committee. The city may even have videos that would help you. One is the Brown Act, because that is so critical. And someone has already gotten in trouble on another committee for doing things that they shouldn't. So clearly, it's very helpful. Secondly, I don't think most of you are familiar with Rosenberg's Rules of Order. And I think they're simpler than Roberts, but I think if you want your committee to run well, you all need to get up to speed on that. And the third thing is this whole issue of decorum. It's so tempting sometimes when maybe you have someone coming in and they're obnoxious towards you or whatever, of how to behave, not only among yourselves, but with the public, because people are going to judge you whether you like it or not. Thank you.
Been trained.
Yeah, but to point out, as I did, I think previously, and those topics were part of the training that we did do, the Brown Act and Rosenberg's. But, you know, those are all up on your website. There's an opportunity for you to refresh recollection. And as we go forward, to ask questions in some detail about those items, certainly. But the speaker made one good point, I think, and that has to do with, you know, confidentiality surrounding things like social media or making comments on in public forums. And so, you know, we did talk about that during the training and talk about how that can present problems, but you don't want to be in a position of predetermination on anything. That creates a very big problem. You need to hear all of the evidence that comes before you and all of the information, and commenting something that indicates a bias or predetermination is always going to be a problem. So just a tiny reinforcement of that piece of the training as we move forward, but you'll hear it time and time again.
Chair Lewis, before we move on, we kind of skipped over the NACO membership. Is that something to discuss and can be part of the budget for POAC?
Oh, I think we did. You may have missed it, but that will be part of the budget for POAC, the additional training, as well as the membership and going to the annual conference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So is there any more discussion on additional trainings? Item E. I guess we can move on to commission email and document processes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have worked with our IT division to establish emails for all of you. Those emails will be your first name dot your last name dot POAC@cityofvallejo.net. So those will be your email addresses. They will all be up and running and go live, I think, tomorrow. I'll confirm that with IT. Those boxes, however, I want to, make a fair disclosure to the commission, are monitored because of the timelines. If somebody submits a complaint to you, email, your secretary has mere days to make sure that everybody has it, number one. So if, let's say, Commissioner A received it, but the rest of the commission didn't, part of the secretary's job is to make sure that the rest of that it's consistent, that you all receive those same communications. And two, to make sure that we start our time clock on the items that complaints could trigger a time clock on. So we're just kind of giving you that information, letting you know what the process is, but those will definitely be up and running. In terms of document processes, it's a little trickier than just emails. But the department and the professional standards division of the department receives all complaints, all investigations, etc. Ultimately, they will be making sure that those are available at a dedicated server to the commission. And then if somebody wants those in hard copy to review at professional standards, that will be an opportunity. The ordinance requires a certain number of days for some of those to be available. I think the slowest or the shortest is like you have 60 days to review that material. That's quite a long period of time. You can go back and review the material as many times as you want. The department at this point and the professional standards division has made the suggestion that some people like to have hard copies that you can write notes and things on. So they will also be preparing binders for you that will be held at PSD so that you will have that opportunity to, not everybody wants to read stuff on a screen. Sometimes people want to read stuff in hard copy and be able to make your notes. Those will always be available to you. So you will be able to go back to the professional standards division and review your notes if commission wants. As part of our closed sessions discussions, and you want those binders to come to you for the closed session, they will be delivered for the closed session. So you'll have those and your notes all available in front of you. Obviously, you can take your own notes, but having those binders available to you, I think, grounds the information and puts it all in one place for you. So that was one of the PSD's suggestions that we provided in two formats. The ordinance requires that electronic format, but we felt that there might be some of you who would really like those binders. So that's the intent. So that's our report on this item. Hopefully those emails are going live tomorrow. I got the email today that they were ready to go. So I do believe they're good. The other thing I wanted to talk about a little about emails is cautions on responses. We talked a little bit about social media, et cetera, and how commenting on social media can be determined to be a predetermination of something and could be problematic. Responding to an email is similar, yet you want to be responsive to the public who sends you something. So, good responses, thank you for submitting this to us. All of the commission will be provided a copy if you haven't already been, given a copy to everyone. And we will, in accordance with our charge, address whatever issues will come before us. I think those kind of responses, and I'm not telling you exactly what to say, I'm just saying those kind of responses can't get you in any, I don't want to use the word trouble, but in any situation or trapped into any situation where someone is expecting you to do something because you might have intimated in a response to an email that you might be doing X, Y, or Z. So just want to caution on those responses that they be responsible, but you do obviously want to be responsive to the community who is engaging with you. So saying you got it and moving forward. But detailed responses that include, oh yes, that was a horrible thing. I know that right off the bat. Should probably be avoided.
Could I just ask one question as to the emails? So if you do get an email from the public and you said staff is monitoring them, will staff automatically send it to the rest of the commissioners? Or does the commissioner individually have to?
No, staff will do that for you. So the intent would be that if, let's say, I'm going to use you as an example because you raised this question, you're the only one who receives a complaint from someone that met you at a city event. And so they have a connection with you. But the whole commission needs to see that complaint. So it would be pulled out. And there are other things that happen with those complaints, including they get logged, they get assigned an IA number. There's a whole process, there's a whole back process that happens. So that's the other reason that all has to happen very quickly. But the complaint will be logged and then will be sure to have been transmitted to all of the commissioners.
Isn't it true that any emails that we send and receive are subject to Freedom of Information Act?
Well, in California, it's the Public Records Act, but yes, that is true. So that's the other thing, you know, be mindful of the fact that, and we did this training about the Public Records Act, but be mindful of the fact that anything you say in an email is generally discoverable. The only time it is not is if it is a attorney-client privilege communication and or, you know, a couple of other minor exceptions, but certainly, yes, your emails will be out there for all to see potentially. That's also true of text messages. That's also true of anything on your personal devices. So, and your personal devices, I want to point out, you may not delete anything from either. So there's no way kind of around that situation. If somebody sends you a text message on your personal device or sends you an email on your personal email, you will be asked to produce those. And they would also be available to the public. So just want to, that piece of caution is one of the reasons we set up your individual boxes was to avoid that situation. So we encourage you to use those in your communications and encourage the public to use them as well. Want to point out that there is another situation, and maybe DC Knight or the chief want to stand up and talk about this, but we are going to be having, and I think it's already live, isn't it? The complaints portal. So DC Knight will explain the complaints portal to you all, but we are going to put the complaints portal email and the way somebody can submit a complaint or a compliment, because both are permissible, through the portal that you will ultimately also see. But that's the easiest way for us to track them. So we want to make sure that we advertise very well the portal, because if you receive one by email, then somebody has to go in and physically log that into the portal. But if the individual logs it into the portal themselves, then they get their tracking system, and that tracking is available to them at any time they want to go in and track where in the process is their complaint.
Yeah,
DC?
so the police department uses a software system used by thousands of other police agencies across the country and in other countries actually, called IA Pro. IA Pro is a hub software that tracks all complaints and is our central housing software for all of those things. But as you can imagine, we have to have the ability to accept complaints in a variety of ways. Someone can give a verbal complaint, someone can write it on our written complaint form, but they all eventually have to go into IA Pro to be tracked. And it's no different than now. There's another outlet, which is through the POAC Commission. They can come through there, but they have to come to us so they can get it put into IA Pro. What the city attorney talked about is a enhanced feature to the software called IA Pro Public Portal. Public Portal is just a branch of IA Pro that allows our department to be more responsive to community members. So now when they file a complaint, once it is put into the public portal, if that person provides an email address, a phone number, a way to contact them, the system can then communicate the status of their complaint to that complainant. Also, there's a link that's provided to the complainant when they file the complaint that they can go in and click that unique link to get a status of where their investigation is at. That was all previously had to be done automated or not automated manually, and now that's automated. So that's a good enhancement that we've just recently started to implement. It's been a soft rollout. We're working out a couple of kinks and bugs, but we really wanted to make sure that was online for the creation of the police commission. So that's good news.
Will this committee have any visibility or transparency into the complaints, or how would we be able to interact with the information given to IA Pro, or is that sort of proprietary to the department?
Yes and no. So it's going to depend. So we're actually talking about that, about potentially giving commission members read-only access to certain things that you can be given purview to in IA Pro. So it is a web-based system. So that's probably a future training down the road that we may give. So there might be some ability for us to make things more automated. And so you're not getting inundated with a bunch of piecemealed complaint information, because as you know, we have to provide all complaints, and obviously there's serious incidents, bias-based incidents that are separate, but just the inundation of all complaints, that's going to be a pretty significant workflow for you guys. We're trying to find out ways that we can potentially automate that to where you can just go into IA Pro and view those things. But again, we're still trying to work out those details, and we hope to automate as much as we can for you guys.
I have a question. As complaints come in and we're able to view them and respond to them, who is the individual that's going to be overlooking our responses and things like that? Because essentially, if we're hooked up to that system, will it be the police department that's monitoring it, or do we have an independent person that's over the committee that's going to be on them, that's going to potentially forward the emails to all of us and just basically look at our responses and how we deal with the public?
So as I understand it now, we're working through our standard operating procedures. Everything is run through the commission secretary. So there's never usually that direct communication with the police department. The independence of this oversight body is by design, that communication will flow through the secretary to the police department. But as the city attorney mentioned, the person on the police department side is our professional standards division. So those are the people that are entrusted to maintain the integrity of the documents, the complaints, et cetera. So there will be a lot of liaising with between PSD and the commission secretary.
And if I may, Commissioner Clark, so that we have some redundancy in the system because of the timelines that are involved, all of the incoming mail and all of the outcoming mail from all of your email inboxes will be copied to me as the secretary, to the HR director, and to the city attorney. So because we also need to have some redundancy in our system to make sure that we're identifying complaints that are incoming so that we can act upon them per the timelines in the ordinance.
I want to comment on just a little clarity around the email boxes. Thank you for getting those email boxes set up. We did have that conversation and I really appreciate it. And I want to clarify, who are the staff that are looking at the emails? This is really important when I, again, talk about the appearance of independence. So what do we mean by who are the staff? Because I want to have a little more clarification around this, because we do understand that we have pointed timelines that we can't miss, and there can be a lot of inflow into the mailboxes, and we need to ensure that we're not missing those deadlines. We have strict deadlines that we need to meet, and this is why we're having this process as a control point. But who are the staff, and what does that mean as it relates to having the appropriate controls in place that create safeguards of those complaints and the independent action around those complaints?
I can start, Neanderkin. So it's the same people who receive every complaint now. So right now, today, complaints are received and investigations are undertaken if an outside investigator is required by the code. That goes to the city manager's office, my office, and HR. It's a three-legged stool. And that redundancy that the city manager spoke about is so we can't can't, I suppose you could potentially, so that it's highly unlikely that that ball gets dropped because it goes to those 3 places. And there is always a conversation. We have one, here's what needs to happen, et cetera, et cetera. It will also now go to the commission from the secretary so that there's a backflow to the commission as well. So
But
because
what I'm speaking to
Mhm.
is if a complaint goes to the chair's email box.
yes,
Right? Who are the staff who are seeing those complaints going to Chair Lewis's email box? And how does it get forwarded to ensure, again, the safeguarding that we're reporting on time, we're reviewing on time, but also what that independent line looks like, the controls there.
it's
I just want the public to understand why this is happening.
so in order to avoid the situation of someone forgetting to forward it or not forwarding it in a timely manner, IT has set it up that it auto forwards to the 3 people that we just discussed.
So when we talk about auto forwarding, what is that trigger point that helps something auto forward? Is it someone has said in the subject line, this is a complaint? How do we know?
No, there-
Are we saying everything is being auto forwarded
Everything
in
is
that
being auto,
email?
yes,
So do
everything
we
is
need
being
to-
auto forward.
This needs to be very clear to
Yes.
the public to understand and
Yeah.
why that's happening.
And it's happening because there can be complaints in there. Now, nobody's going to, somebody says, hi, congratulations, we're so happy that you're on the commission, et cetera. That's not something that certainly staff is going to forward out further. But to the extent that it is read, determined to be a complaint, then there's a lot of things that have to happen very quickly.
And those emails from the commission's box are being forwarded to the secretary, who happens to be our city manager,
Yes,
legal, and HR.
correct. The
Okay,
same people who get them today.
yes, I just want to clarify,
Yeah.
that's important.
Thank you for that.
I guess I'd like to follow up and more ask as a question and make a statement too. I used to do surveys, very sensitive ones, and people are really paranoid. And this is an area that they're even more paranoid. And just saying that, well, you're letting the public know that stuff is being kept confidential, that's not enough. I think you need in all your documents to very clearly at the beginning say, this is a confidential item. Here's exactly how we handle it on every time I email you. It may be a pain to see this at the beginning, but people aren't going to believe you if you just say to them, we keep this confidential. I don't believe you. The police just beat me up or someone did this or that. They're not going to believe that you're respecting their rights. So I just beg you, take whatever you come up with statements, go out into the communities and show it to people and say, is that believable? Don't you make the determination of what's believable. Go ask the community, do they believe your confidentiality statement enough that they'll be willing to use your site? Thank you.
Well, I do want to point out that complaints ultimately can't be addressed unless they are placed into the hopper of the Internal Affairs Division. And the Internal Affairs Division and 4 items that have to go to an independent investigator, additional people, are going to get those complaints. There's no way around that. There's not any. Oh, I understand. And I wasn't suggesting that people shouldn't know that. I was merely suggesting that, yes, understanding what confidentiality means in the context of submitting a complaint is probably important. Yes, if you submit a complaint to the commission, it also goes to the following places. I understand what you're saying.
So I have a question, and I see Dr. Ledger's point and Dr. Schultz's point. The question that to me would come to a layman citizen is, why is my complaint going to HR? that will be a question. So I understand what he's saying in terms of you need to explain why the complaint is going to these different bodies, because people don't understand government and how it fully operates. So there may be a concern of about confidentiality when it's going to HR, not knowing why. So I think if that's clearly explained, and you can correct me if I'm misunderstanding you, that needs to be clearly explained to the public why HR is receiving the complaint. Because when you have different entities, when you have a complaint going to three different entities, to them that might not be confidential. And I think that's the point that he's making. It's like, no, that's not confidential because three different people have seen it. That's not confidential to the average citizen. To us who know government, we understand. But to Joe citizen, that makes no sense. So I think if that can be clearly outlined, I think that to the trust piece, that may make it helpful for people, because it's not, it has a big question mark over my head. So I'm just making that point.
So I think the point that was previously made this evening about, a memo about what does confidentiality mean in general, this piece could be added to it about the complaints, where in general, people would be able to understand it would be available on the commission's website, it would be available on the city's website, it would be available in the complaints portal where people are electronically submitting their complaints. What happened, kind of what happens to what I submit after I submit it? And that may be a way to, Commissioner Sykes, explain what you're suggesting and the why of it. We've had a lot of discussion in our work with Cal DOJ about this very issue of, it can't just sit there. That's doesn't work, obviously. In order for a complaint to be investigated, people need to know and understand the complaint and move that forward to through the investigation process. So I do think people understanding it is helpful and appropriate.
I think something that is also important, and I'm standing here and coming back and forth because, again, as I stated earlier, I'm really pressing you all to talk because I think it's important around these subjects. And I haven't looked at the page for this commission today or yesterday, this past week. But I think what we also need to think about is when we're talking about the system, I forget the name of the system, but when we speak about that system, that should really be front and center on the page for POAC versus encouraging individuals to send complaints to an email box. Because what it does, it's also, you can speak about confidentiality and why that's there. And as you state, it provides a tracking number. It provides a way for the individual who is making a complaint to track their complaint. No different than a whistleblower program, right? And again, what I can't stress this enough as we are, as you as a commission are hashing this out, is what does transparency look like? What does accountability look like? What does appearance look like as it relates to the independent body that you are designed to be? And where is that single portal that this information is lodged into when I'm making a complaint? And it is true, as a citizen who does not understand the interworkings of government and the many layers that we operate in, their one concern is their confidentiality generally when you are making a complaint, when you're a whistleblower, when you're making any kind of complaint, especially when it's concerning your safety, your constitutional rights. And so what does that look like on our page, on your page? And that is something that we as a city really need to think about, because again, I'm going to continue to stress this. It's an independent body and we are gaining and building trust with our community. And that's the purpose of this. And so what does that look like every time you're talking about each procedure and what you want to convey? as a body who's carrying this responsibility, and that you can stand firm and all say the same thing about the independence, about the appearance of our independence, so forth and on. That is a huge deal when we are speaking about why this body exists today. I can't stress that enough.
One of the things that I was thinking about, as it relates to what Dr. Letterju was stating, is what complaint warrants what response and who would respond to it. And for the public to know that before an individual gets on the page and complains about whatever, they can read the type of level of response that they'll receive and who will receive that complaint, so that they can be cautious about where is it going, who's going to hear it, because all complaints are going to be different and all complaints are going to warrant different responses. And so if we were open and honest with the public and let them know that this type of complaint is going to is going to warrant this type of response, then I think individuals will feel a little safe about the complaints that they may make. And I think that that's something that we should look at, is what would be the triggering factor for whomever to respond to that. And if we was to have that documented, written out, placed on the site, so that the person can say, okay, well, I know if I complain about this, these are the individuals that's going to hear it.
For my role as the secretary, I think these are all great points and things that we'll add to the website.
And I had a question as well. Just thinking about the emails that we will have, is it possible to have a drafted signature line with some of the confidentiality terms, or at least an auto response that obviously is passed or reviewed to automatically be added to our signature before we get them issued, or a standardized one? I'm thinking, obviously, I'm going to attach the link to the complaint portal, attach the homepage, and also include that. But I think it would be helpful to have kind of a standardized or a more in-depth signature line than it's saying Naomi and Commissioner. And it would be helpful if legal or whoever would be able to provide at least a templated language so that we can all
Right.
consistently have that added to our email inboxes.
It's another great suggestion. When emails come out of our office, they have that template on them, and they're subject to attorney-client privilege, et cetera, et cetera. And if you've received this email, and you shouldn't have what you're supposed to do with it. So I think that is a great suggestion to add to the commission's emails, like the standard, so that when you pull up your system, whenever you respond, it has this tag at the bottom that lets the public know what's happening, or what confidentiality looks like in the context of the commission. Another great suggestion to, again, inform the public, as has been suggested, about what the process really is, and how it needs more people than just the commission to happen, for lack of a better word. So yeah, that's a good one.
Is there any more comment on the issues of email and responses and any of that? The next item is talking about the meeting date, which I think we already kind of decided. So
That's correct. The regular meeting date, the first Monday.
So on to item number 8, information calendar.
The information calendar is a section of the agenda where staff can present informational items that don't require any action by the commission. We don't have any of those this evening, but there might be some of those for future meetings.
On to future agenda items. Good question. Anybody have a comment on that?
I'd, I'd assume will have updates on the budget and also on the continued searches for outside attorney, and also any updates on the secretary position from the city attorney and the city manager.
Yes, if it's the will of the commission, we'll have the item on the budget. As was mentioned by the city attorney, there'll be a future agenda item regarding the drafts complaint policy. Not sure when that's going to occur. And if it be the will of the commission, we can also have, there will be an update on the procurement of an outside attorney. Those are the items that I had listed from the earlier discussion throughout the meeting on potential future agenda items. Happy to add others. And just so everybody is reminded, per the ordinance, section 1803030, and as I mentioned before, the ordinance reads, in preparing agendas for the commission, the chair and vice chair shall convene to set the agenda and shall consult with the commission secretary as well as the assigned the attorney per the legality of the agenda. So it's primarily, as we mentioned before, the responsibility of the chair and vice chair to set the meeting agendas, with consultation with the secretary regarding things perhaps like how many items we can reasonably fit and in a single agenda and the like.
Through the chair, I'd just like to, while we're on the future agenda items, something we've been discussing too is one of the things under the commission's purview is to review all policy revisions, all new policies. So I'd like to make a suggestion to the chair that there potentially be a standing item on that because as you guys may or may not know, policies are edited all the time. As there's legislative changes, there's best practices changes, and we use a software system as well that pushes out possible policy updates. And they provide us some notes about what those policy updates are. We can accept them. We don't have to accept them. So that I see that as possibly a forum for this body to be able to review those ahead of time and maybe in a packet. Hopefully it wouldn't be too many, but sometimes there's 5 or 6 small revisions. Obviously something such as the complaint policy, which is a full overhaul, that's different. That would probably need to be an item only, to itself. But just a suggestion through the chair about possibly making there some type of standing item about policy review or whatever we may want to call it.
Could I just, as to the policy, is it possible to also get an overview or schedule of what policies are potentially coming before the commission as well, so we can know what exactly are the policies that we're looking at, so that when they get put on the agenda, we could at least have a more informed discussion about them?
Tell me a little bit more about your
A
question.
schedule of, so obviously you want a standing item for the agenda policies. It would be nice that the commission get that information prior to the agenda, or at least an overview of, okay, what is the schedule for the year of potential policy modifications that you have, if you can foresee it. I think that would be helpful.
Yes and no. So the software pushes out legislative updates usually towards the end of the year, because a lot of times it's January 1st, this new thing comes into play. So I do see there being bigger volume towards the end of a calendar year. But throughout the year, it's kind of sporadic at times if there's best practices changes or if there's something new. I'll give an example about face coverings for law enforcement. That's a policy that I'm going to bring forward to the commission. And the software system gives a draft proposed policy that I'd like to bring before you guys, get your input, and then put it into implementation. My point being, it's something we kind of have to take on a regular basis, because I can't have a policy that needs to be changed that's a best practice and sit for months and months and months. So I think we can spread it out. We can also, at the discretion of the chair, I can lump them together, to where we take on a little batch each time. We can knock it out each month. It's kind of up to you guys how you want to do it. Again, I'm your police liaison to kind of work with you on. I'm sure we'll have to try a few different ways, but definitely open to suggestions.
What
So
I
thank
think
you.
she's talking about basically is not being given the information on the spot, like right now. We're sitting here in the commission, and then you come and then you tell us about this policy, and then we're going to have to make a decision on it now.
Right.
And so she's talking about, if I'm not mistaken, being able to receive that potential revised policy information beforehand, before we get here,
Mhm.
maybe email it to us a week beforehand, 2 weeks beforehand, so that we can read it, consider it, and then when we come to the meeting, be able to decide on it appropriately.
Yeah, there's definitely in the ordinance a time bound associated to that. And I want to say 60 days.
So I think the this was a special meeting, and I don't remember when Dawn published this, but usually for the council, we try to do it a week before the meeting. So if there is a policy to be reviewed under the standing agenda item that the deputy chief is suggesting of policy review, that policy that we would be asking for your input on would be part of the agenda packet. So you'd have it for approximately 7 days before the meeting.
And I think that again, we can work out the details through the chair, but I think there's also a time bound portion. You don't have to make a decision that night. That is something you can, let's say it might be something really easy, like, nope, we have no further comments. You might make that decision that night, or it might be something that you have to take under submission. And I do believe there's a time period of which you can review that policy language.
It's 45 days.
45 days. That's what, so
So-
you have up to 45 days to review all policies. What I'm telling you guys is chances are some of these are just kind of run of the mill, but then there's going to be those bigger ones where you do have that longer period to review.
Mine was more of a schedule of forecasting out, but I think you've answered that
Yep.
based upon the system that you use. And then as a separate future agenda item, is there going to be a discussion about terms, commission terms? Because I know a few are actually expiring next month.
Yes.
I think it needs to be formalized because of the delay in seating of the commission.
Perhaps
we
you're-
need to talk about terms.
Oh,
It
sorry.
needs to be restated because it's different on the website, and that may be a concern to the citizens. So it does need to be a topic of discussion.
So individual council members have spoken to this issue a couple of times. And I do believe that your liaison has brought this up at least twice, if not maybe 3 times, about just, how do I put this, re-upping your terms, given the delay from seating to action. And you all having participated in all of the training and all of your patients, et cetera. So I think that's probably an item that we need to carry to the council to have that taken up for action. And probably sooner rather than later. So those of you who would be otherwise be expiring would know right away what that looks like and what the council's decision-making process is in that regard. So.
And maybe we can go a little further and say that staff commit to taking that item to the city council. So you're not wondering whether it's going to happen or not. We don't know how council is going to feel about that until they take action on it. But we can commit to getting that on a soon future city council agenda.
Just to refresh your memory, if needed, the mayor spoke kind of extensively about that the night they took up the vote to reject the proposed new ordinance. And she expressed her desire to let us carry on, for lack of a better word. 2 of us expire next month, actually.
January 27th. Yeah.
So I think the ordinance reads that somebody continues to serve until a replacement is appointed. So nobody will expire and nobody's term will expire until a new appointment is made.
That's correct. And that's true for all of our boards and commissions.
If I may, for my record keeping, do we have agreement that you would like to have a standing agenda item on new policies and for the police department to provide a forecast to the extent they're able of the new policies they expect that they might bring in 2026?
Yes, I move that we do that. That sounds great.
The question I have is, when you submit the list of policies, to kind of give an idea which policies are more urgent than others. So you can do that. That would be helpful.
In that regard, because you've brought it up, the complaints policy that the department has been working on with Cal DOJ, which will be the first one to come to you, I think is extremely time sensitive. It's had a few fits and starts and some, how do I put this? A couple of revisions, several revisions, that have resulted in us, as a city, the department as a department, getting, a couple of months behind on when we thought we would be, rolling that out. The commission's role, at least in the initial circumstance with with the policy, is also to be taking public input. You will be the first out of the gate with the policy with the public. So there may be members of the public who are very interested in this policy and may come before you. But I do want to say it is pretty time sensitive. So just kind of be prepared on that one, since you asked. That one would be pretty time sensitive, so that we can get it out to the town hall meeting after that and then get any revisions made. The faster that new policy is in place, it has a lot of additional touch points for the public and a lot of additional information for them in that new policy, that they've been waiting for. So.
So future agenda items, I assume that's it on that topic. Move on to report of presiding officer and members of the commission. Does anybody have a report?
This is an opportunity for members of the commission to provide updates to one another and to the public about any commission-related activities they've been engaged in. I know we're just getting kicked off, so maybe less to say here. But to Dr. Letaju's point going forward, I think this is a really valuable opportunity to share information with one another. You don't have another group setting in which to do that, so I encourage you to take advantage of it.
Deafening silence. I think it would be good for us to get to know each other better, but I don't know how to go about doing that. In a way that doesn't violate the Brown Act. So,
The Brown Act ultimately is only going to be applicable to items that are within your purview, right? So, a social interaction of this is my background, this is what I, have done for my career, this is how many children I have, or things that help you to connect with one another. That's not really subject to the Brown Act. So if you all wanted to go have coffee, or if you wanted to just meet, 2 or 3 or 4 of you to do that sort of, relationship building. I was looking for that word. Thank you, Andrew. That's not subject to the Brown Act. You can definitely do that. You just have to stay away from topics that are within your purview. But that's encouraged. I know that some commissions have done that in the past. I worked with a commission for a very, very long time that did 2 social events on their own, with just social interaction and with that they invited their direct staff to, as just a way of getting to know each other and help build that trust and the relationship. So I don't want you to think you can't do that. I want to encourage you to do that if that's a desire.
So we should all meet at Machete's Coffee on Saturday and get to know each other.
Also, I believe this is Commissioner Qual's first actual meeting, so I wanted to welcome you to the group. So welcome.
I suggest that we do come together based on a suggestion that the city attorney made, so we can be prepared to for the meeting on February 2nd, because it sounds like after February, we're going to be running hard and fast. So we need to be prepared to know each other and discuss how we can work in unity as a group and be ready to address the concerns of Vallejo residents.
Do you have a suggestion of?
You said machetes, but not this Saturday. I'm booked.
Well, we can do a couple of different meetings. I mean, because it's going to be tough to get everybody together at the same time, but I think it is important that we get together and get to know each other.
You and I can brainstorm and we'll figure it out. Will that work? Well, you and I can brainstorm and we'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, good.
And you can use your POAC email accounts, which was mentioned, will be live tomorrow and we'll provide information on how to log into that in your devices, to schedule anything like that.
Okay, great. Are we up to adjournment?
So since I was late to the party, was there some kind of like roster with everybody's contact information? Okay.
Well, ultimately, your contact information will be your
Email?
email address that we have stacked up for you to go live tomorrow.
Okay, amongst the commissioners?
Sure.
I think,
You can do that too, if you want to. But you can also share your phone numbers if you want to do that. The city does not typically publish those because we would have to receive your consent to publish like your personal information. So we don't typically do that, but you're welcome to share among yourselves for sure.
so I think it would be good if we share our phone numbers, and I think at least Commissioner Sykes and I should get together and discuss some sort of get together.
Can I just make one more comment? I know some of us have done the ride-alongs, and I know we briefly mentioned it, but I wanted to open that up, and I think the public can also attend ride-alongs if they wish. And I think that is also a really great opportunity, and I wanted to make it clear that it's not just reserved for the commission. It literally blew my mind doing one, and so it's very shocking. It's very grounding, and it really gave me a very different perspective on our officers and what the community needs. And so I want to make sure that it's clear that that is open to the public and it's not just for the commissioners. Because it's wild attending one of those. So
Yeah, that's a really good point, Commissioner. I was in roll call today. We had a ride along. So we do a lot. We do a lot of ride alongs. So word of mouth, a lot of people, they come out and they ride. They'll tell a friend to do the same. So if you did enjoy it and you thought it was very meaningful, please spread the word. So I think it's a very good message. Thank you.
Is the dispatch sit-in also a resource that's available to the public as well? Because I found that to be, just to back up what you said, very valuable resource to go through that experience.
Not as common, but we can make that as well. Yes.
I said the dispatch sit-in, we sat in with dispatch as part of the training.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Oh, yeah, you say, you adjourn or something.